on behalf of OGTC, I wholeheartedly welcome you all again once to today's conference. A very good afternoon to all of you. We will be having panel discussion in this session, which will be moderated by Mr. Prashant Agarwal. He's Joint Managing Director with the Advisors Private Limited. Sir, I'm sure you do not need any kind of introduction, and each one of us know you very well. But still, I'm sharing a very, very brief bio for good of those who have joined us late. Mr. Agarwal is an expert on corporate strategy, business creation, diversification, and performance enhancement assignments in the textile apparel and retail sector for Indian and international clients. He has a vast experience of over 25 years, and I'm sure, sir, we are going to make a lot of advantage out of your experience for our textile sector. I now hand over to you, sir, and again welcome you, and please take on now the proceedings. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, and welcome to all honored panelists here. And with the kind of panel I have, I think I don't need to moderate much. We have vast experience in the panel that we have today, and people will be eager to hear. And Pallab, Vijay, Mathur, Nanda, we all know that there is a lot of changes which are happening in last few years in terms of sourcing landscape globally. While China is still there, last year they exported $305 billion, out of which garment has come down from 180 to $157 billion. Textile has moved up to $150 billion. Technical textile, I was in conference at ITMF, and Chinese team, the whole Chinese team I talked to, they're saying as a strategy, they're moving more towards technical textiles, where value-added products, because their cost is going up. And with this higher cost, they're not saying we are out of garments. We'll make garments, but I think as a strategy, they're moving up towards more value-added products. So, and then with sourcing becoming difficult, sometimes logistics becoming a big issue. In Germany, people are talking about building their own factories also on certain products. So we are talking about insourcing near to US, near to Europe, within US and Europe. So, and then sustainability is again big on the agenda of all buyers, where when we are talking about export, things being exported to US and Europe, and then it is recycled, it has to be recycled in US or Europe, or it will come back. How it's going to happen? They're talking about digital passport. They're talking about regulations for all this. I think in this changing times, we have to be on our toes to see that we are relevant to the industry and how the sourcing landscape. That's why we have chosen this topic, and would like to hear from the panelists their views of being connected and how they are handling it. Let me start with Mathurji. Mathurji, regarding emerging sourcing trends, shifts which is happening out of China, or shortening the supply chain, rising demand, how do you see things happening? What's your views for exporters from India and the way buyer thinks? Please, Vijay Mathurji.
Thank you, Prashant sir. But at the outset, I would like to thank OGTC for having me in the program. And the program itself, if you see 13 sessions across the whole day, we are spending almost 31% on technology and digital in today, and 15% seminars are oriented towards ESG. So that shows that the whole program is aimed towards digital, technology, and ESG. And what Prashant has rightly said, so one thing which I wanted to tell, that when we say previously, what is the textile value chain? So we say, okay, from cotton seed to garment, this is my textile value chain. But now in value chain, one more chain has been added after apparel, and that is disposal of the waste. Now that disposal of the waste is now well connected with sustainability. You will be happy or not happy to know that whatever clothes which are discarded in US, discarded in EU, come to Kandla port And on one particular day, almost 400 trucks of this disposed material are emerging out of Kandla port, coming to Ludhiana, to Amroha, and to Tamil Nadu for segregating cotton, segregating accessory, buttons, and all those. And then ultimately, a good amount of fabric, which is MMF, goes to for landfill. So this is one. My first thing is that another textile value chain wastage disposal is now a priority for everyone. I mean, I can't produce a garment and say, okay, where it will be disposed, this is not my headache. So this becomes my headache. This is point number one. Point number two is, I was talking to my daughter who works for you in UAE and handles 1,000 stores. She's the head of buying, and she was on way to Turkey. So I said, why you are going to Turkey? I mean, what makes you to go to Turkey? You can do everything on online. So what she's saying that now the brand which handles 1,000 stores, handles 75 brands, they are not saying which are the best second supplier, third supplier out of China. Like for example, if we were getting fabric from China, who is the second best, who is the third best, who is the fourth best, who can give the capacities, the thought process on sourcing is going second, third, fourth, fifth. Now, I don't know where our Indian people are looking on this. This is one. Another thing is, if you look at it, some data, particularly what is available on online, there is a 33% increase in sustainable product, 49% growth in eco products. But in Australia, in sustainable products, 580% increase in online sustainable product, 228% in eco products, and 261% growth in recycled product. Now, if this is the taste of Australia, where we have recently signed the FTA, and if we are looking to have a market, now are we, whether I am into that chain, I mean, may have a very good product, very good price, but whether I fall into this is a question in the in the sourcing landscape, which we must. And since today's seminar addresses 46% on ESG and technology, I think this is the right time to talk to our own people, whether you are sourcing something from recycled or something or not, or maybe on eco, or maybe on a sustainable, if you really want to harp upon on Australian market. Now, I'd like to take, Prashant, the two stories coming in from one, Mr. Pablo Isla, who is the chairman of Inditex, and in his annual report, one underlining thing, which is technology is the key enabler. And over the last 8 years, they have spent 13 billion euros on technology. Second, can you hear me out?
Yeah. Now I can hear you.
The second is that what Inditex is of the view that by the end of 2023, they would be buying only sustainable cotton and viscose sources. I mean, so what we are very proud of, that we produce a very good cotton. We are number world in yarn, and number one, number two in cotton production. But whether we are number one in sustainable cotton, we are number one in sustainable viscose. If I am working with, for example, with Inditex, I have to think whether I should have within India or something. This is my third observation. And fourth observation is, I also quote, I have a friend, which Mr. Tadashi and I were the chairman of Uniqlo, and happened to talk to him with Mr. Modi's office when he came to India. He is a unique person, and I think I quote him. He says, what would be Uniqlo in next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years time? Now, if I put this question before any exporter of OGTC or anyone in India and ask them what you would be after 10 years of time, वो कहेगा कल का पता नहीं यार. So the point is whether I am thinking in that direction or not. So this becomes, if someone is thinking beyond 5 years, beyond 10 years, then perhaps he has to go to digitization. So just coming to the industry, if I'm looking digitization in apparel industry, so whether I am investing into technology for end-to-end product sourcing, whether I'm asking my fabric purchase manager that you don't go to the same supplier, find out who are the new, who are the giving better service, because you are not only buying the fabric, you are buying services also. So whether we are equipped, making these people equipped, so training becomes very important. And one more thing, which is futuristic, but it is coming. It is coming very fast. Like for in manufacturing jobs, being the low skill garment manufacturing roles are getting displaced by robots. If you agree or don't agree, this is going to come very, very fast. This is already there in Maruti Udyog, but it will come. It is there in Haryana, it is there in Gurgaon, it will also come to Udyog Bihar very, very, very. So idea is, are we thinking in this direction? I mean, this is a question I leave it to the panelists. And last point, Prashant ji, which is, that how we are going to brand our product. Now, I was so happy in the month of May 22 when Nalli store opened their fourth store in Chicago, isn't it? And earlier they are into New Jersey, they are in Dallas, they are in Fremont, California. The idea is, can you ever think that Nalli can have 39 stores, out of which 4 are in US, they are in Canada, they are in Singapore. They were the first to adopt technology by use of barcode, issuing invoices by computer way back, 30 years back. The point is, if I embrace the technology today, so coming back to shortly, just to summarize my point, that sourcing alone, I mean, if we are looking for a landscape, we have to see from the entire angle that what is the flavor of the market. The flavor of the market is absolutely sustainable, absolutely energy saving. So buyers are not just looking, yes, definitely they are looking for a lower price, but they also want that you should be proficient into sustainability end to end, and you are using digital. I think these 3 things I leave it open for the other panelists to criticize me, to support me. So this is from my side, Mr. Prashant.
Thank you, Mathurji, and I think you have touched absolutely the right points. And I was sharing in my presentation and at the start also, when I was at the conference, buyers like Adidas, Puma, IKEA, all were there. Are so many of them, and there were manufacturers from Europe, US, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh. All were sitting and they were debating about the cost of sustainability, cost of recycling, cost of everything. Where buyers never had an answer. They were saying, let's work together. We don't have an answer. Consumer is asking for it. We are also looking for answers. You are looking for answers. There will be a lot of tug of war which will going to happen, and there will be a lot of understanding. So the point is, this landscape is going to change in next 3 to 5 years. It's already changing, but we'll have a time frame. The question in this conference, what we are debating is, let's look into it. Because this landscape is changing, we can't turn our eyes somewhere else and say we'll face it when it happens. It's happening. And if we are in the boat, I think we'll deliver. Thanks, Mathurji. With this, I'll go to Pallab. And Pallab, with your insight of, I think in this panel, nobody would have a greater insight of what buyer is thinking and what manufacturers globally. You yourself as manufacturing in Indonesia, in Bangladesh, in India, in Vietnam. So with this, we would like to have a clear understanding from you, audience, in terms of how this sourcing landscape is changing, and second from you will be how India is prepared and what we should do to really be part of the bandwagon. Pallab, over to you.
Thank you, Prashant. Thank you to OGTC for having me on board on this discussion. Um, I think Prashant, Vijay ji has summarized it very well. Like all the three important points, whether it is the modernization, that means automation and digitization, is very important to be relevant, to remain relevant for this industry, and to have a complete control over the costs. I think that will play a very important role. The whole discussion that, or the example that he was giving about the ESG initiative by and it's coming from the consumers, as you said, is becoming more and more important. This generation is very clear about what they want, and definitely one of the want is that they want ethical sourcing, ethical way of manufacturing, and the way how the goods are coming onto their in their hand, the traceability. So these things are very clear. If you look into today's internet or Instagram and all, so it's coming. It's like it's obvious, and it's been obvious for almost like last 6-7 years that this is the trend, which is the none of the retailer or a brand can ignore. Uh, yes, the most important geopolitical situation that has evolved along with the cost factor is like what next to the China. So that also is a very important factor to be considered at this point of time. Yes, China have been talking about the increased cost. The wages are 600, or we get to hear even higher. But somehow, like they have been able to really be competitive. And if you talk of US, the whole import market, the importers market, like who are sitting out there, who stock the goods from China and still supplying to most of the retailers. So that market is completely controlled by the Chinese suppliers, or basically these importers have been working with China big time. Only now when the certain strict rules have come in US, in which the executive was responsible for the sourcing decisions, can be prosecuted. So I think we are seeing that some drastic change might happen in that area as well. The brand who were having their own sourcing offices across the globe, they definitely have been very consciously moving their raw material and the garments from China for almost like last couple of years. We can see that trend. So this is definitely what's happening in the landscape of sourcing and manufacturing. The second part of your question, like, how India is prepared. So India has always been a stable player, I think. We have been so stable that we have limited ourselves to that, that number, that 16-17 billion, we're not crossing that. But I think like now is the time, like we will see some quick jumps, because what we are seeing is that a lot of other supports are coming in from the government, from certain customers, and other things also. If I talk about the hurdles that we still have, like when you say that if I'm doing business across Indonesia, Vietnam, Bangladesh, and India, one particular thing that really strikes me is the compliance. Compliance means not the ESG part, but the compliance part. Like, we understand what ESG is. We understand what the requirement of the customers is. We understand what the requirement of the banking authority or shipping authority or the brands are. But to have that disciplined compliance to deliver as per that requirement is something like I think we need to definitely improve ourselves upon. There is a lot of scope. If I go back to my sourcing days, the comparison if I do with the countries, then definitely this is where India was lacking. And I think from this side also what I'm seeing is that it's not an easy task, because India has been very strong in jugaad. That means like we could manage things, we could bypass certain things and get things done. But when it comes to certain compliance to certain standards and certain procedures or certain systems that is required by the various stakeholders, so that's something like we have to definitely, there is scope of improvement. More training is needed, more strict discipline is needed on that. And in terms of infrastructure, yes, we have had the cotton-based infrastructure. We definitely need the MMF infrastructure, and I can see like We have a panelist like who would be definitely giving us a lot of insights into that. And yeah, so I think these are the two things if I look at like how to create that basket. Like India has always been the largest supplier, or let's say India has been focusing on that spring summer kind of merchandise for these Western markets. Whereas their biggest buy happens in the other two seasons. So yeah, we should be looking at how we can supply to all four seasons across the globe, or even for our country, like the changing needs of our country. So that's something is has to be thought about, and I think there are some opportunities there. So let me take a pause there. Thank you.
Thank you, Pallab. And I think I can see a clear message from Pallab, where first thing he's saying, China people want to move out, but definitely do they have real option? Those who are giving the alternates, whether it's Vietnam, Bangladesh, Cambodia, they are taking those options and they're looking for options from India. One is this. And second, what Pallab clearly said, that it's not only ESG. ESG, we are not now talking, but there are still a lot of other compliance issues, commitment issues. Because I remember in the panel, last panel, when you were with buyers, when somebody asked what is the one thing, is you said commitment, 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 and commitment. So I think these are some of the things which are very, very important to brand India. Mathurji talked about branding India. So branding India in terms of promoting India is the next stage. First is what buyer looks towards when they buy from India. Are they looking for product variety? Are they looking for flexibility? Are they looking for commitment? I think these are some things which are important to give India its due share. Thanks, Pallab. I'll come back to you with more questions, and let me introduce Anish also. He is now able to
finally
join.
I joined in.
Yeah, Anish Kapoor is Senior Director at Newtimes Group and has a vast experience of manufacturing in India. And now as a buying community, he has been traveling globally and he's been in touch with so many buyers. Anish, my question to you will be, what do you see the landscape, sourcing landscape today? Is India equipped? And do you have a viewpoint which is aligned to what Pallab and Vijay Mathurji, or if you have some specific point, would like to hear from you with your experience?
Very good question, actually. Today, it's future India, the way things are moving right now. Most of the customers I recently met, they want to expand business in India because the challenges in China, traceability is one of the biggest challenges which they're facing out of China. So they want to move things out of India. Now, India as a country, we have limitations in terms of the product categories, what we can offer. We could be a good supply base for circular knits, right? Or woven tops, dresses, But when it comes to denims, or when it comes to sweaters, for example, or, these are the categories, or bottoms, which is probably bigger businesses, or even shirts. These are bigger businesses which are happening, or synthetics out of Vietnam. So we don't have the infrastructures for all those things. And it's a huge, huge market for almost all the customers. I think most of our friends will agree to this, what I'm saying, because when it comes to, a large scale buying proposal, we can offer few product categories out of India, and which is a restriction. We can't go to the, once we say, okay, fine, we India will do this. But once they say, can you do denims? I mean, we don't have the infrastructure. Can you do synthetic knits? We don't have the infrastructure. So we have to think globally what we need to do, and there has to be a lot of support from the government also to add on to these facilities. It cannot be, entrepreneur, investments, because these are huge investments. The way China exploded was they've been, there's a lot of contribution from the government as well. And these are all corporations in China. That's why China is what China is today. Or even Vietnam, most of the companies in Vietnam, there are a lot of Chinese investments. We do not have such huge infrastructures, which is definitely a challenge. But yes, it is Wave India, as of now, a good opportunity for us to grow.
Thank you, Anish. And I think clearly three things emerged. We talked about scale that we need to have. we talked about product variety, product mix, and third is commitment. So I think before going to ESG, let's talk about scale, product variety, and commitment. And maybe Tony ji, while I will come to you for 2-3 minutes later as a manufacturer in terms of why product variety we are not able to enhance for India. I'll rope you in while you being the chairman of the session, but just for few views, I will rope you in. Let me move to Ravish Nanda, who is the co-founder of Alcis Sports. Ravish has been in sports category with Reebok, and overall, like he started this brand Alcis with Paragon Apparels, and they are doing e-commerce as well as direct sales. And I have seen when their products are there side by side to Nike, Adidas, and while the price points are lower, the net sales may not be higher, but their sales in that particular outlet is almost double that of Adidas, Nike. So they are picking up as a brand, and Ravish has a huge sourcing experience of sourcing from China, from all over the world, and developing MMF category for India, which all are talking about. Ravish, over to you to share your experience on that, as well as e-commerce of how you are doing. All will be looking forward to that, how India can develop these category going forward, both for exports, not only for domestic market. Ravish, you are on mute. Ravish, you are on mute.
Yeah, thanks, Prashant, and thanks OGTC for having me here. I think I'll start with saying that a lot of CEOs across the world are saying that this is India's decade, and one of them said that it is India's century. So I think this is the time for India. I mean, whether it is textile or and a lot of other categories, wherein I think we can do wonders. And another thing I wanted to add here is I read somewhere that a rupee invested, government creates the maximum number of jobs. So not from a macro point of view, not only there's a opportunity in governmenting, but it can actually boost India's employment issues also in the future. And now starting with the government, I'm saying there are a lot of practical examples I can quote you where buyers are shifting from China to India, and there are a lot of examples in Paragon only. So the best thing I wanted to tell you is one of the suppliers actually who's a supplier in supplying from US to other within US and other countries. They wanted to have a strategic tie-up with the Paragon, wherein they are saying they want to shift their machinery also to Paragon. So they want to make it Paragon as a hub to supply across the world. So these kind of things were never heard of. There is another supplier. Supplier in Indonesia. Who's finding it difficult to meet the requirement of their buyers. And what they're doing is they are also coming to Paragon and saying that let's have a joint tie-up and let's service the buyers from India. So these things I've never heard of in my life before. So this is what you can say the global sourcing or global manufacturing supply relationship that are taking turn. And I think from a macro level, like what Pallab has said, I think India has to shift from jugaad to systems. There is a huge problem in terms of commitment. There are huge problems in terms of scalability. But there are a lot of advantages also which India is giving in terms of raw material, access to labor, and obviously the domestic consumption. So I think we should focus on, we have a lot of advantages. We should focus on how to overcome our disadvantages, which are, if we put in focus together with the government, can easily be done. And I think there's a huge scope in the future in terms of garmenting. now specifically in terms of activewear, I think when I started in Reebok, I think Reebok was the first company that came to India and actually taught in India about sports footwear and about sports apparel, followed by Adidas, Nike, Puma. They all came afterwards. So they have actually created a market in India and created a knowledge and about sportswear, activewear in the early days. And I think there's a huge scope. Lot of buyers are coming in to India for activewear sourcing. But what Anish rightly said it, there are not too many options. There is there are a limited number of products that we can offer. But scope is huge. And one good thing what we've done in the past, past 2 years, pre-COVID, we as a brand, we went to Dubai. We really did good in Dubai. Followed by we did sampling for Scandinavian countries to launch Alcis there. So everything was done, and it was almost through. But for COVID, it got delayed, and we are still not able to do that. So what I'm saying is there is a huge scope. I know. At this point of time, things need to be improved. But we should have this motivation and determination to go on. And I think India would do great in the next 10 years.
A very specific question to you. Here, we are saying you have the fabric capability also as Paragon, and so that you can
Right.
convert them into garment. India
Right.
does not have good quality fabrics of synthetics, which is stopping a lot of exporters who are part of this OGTC also to get into synthetics. So do you
Right.
think India can, till those facilities don't come up, India can import fabrics, convert them into garment and exports in synthetics, or they have to wait for good quality fabrics to come up in India and then expand into this category?
I think if you ask from a macro point of view or a longer term point of view, I think developing our own infrastructure would be a good thing rather than importing. It'll actually boost our internal employment also. And let me tell you a very important point. Like I said, there are people from US who want to partnership. There are people from Indonesia who want to partnership. The key reason why people want to partnership with Paragon is their integrated infrastructure. But if they won't have fabric in house, nobody would have come. So this fabric, this fabric infrastructure, which obviously was done in collaboration with Adidas when I was there. So that has actually come as shot in the arm in terms of what Paragon can do in the future. So I believe short-term arrangement can be in terms of importing the fabric, but long-term sustainability and growth would need in-house development of fabric and infrastructure.
Pallab, again to you, when we are talking about PLI schemes and synthetic fabric, synthetic garments be exported out of India and non-availability of good quality fabrics, while you are doing the same in Vietnam, you are doing synthetics in Vietnam. So what kind of model can work in India to make synthetic garments and export out of here from your viewpoint, seeing the constraint, and that's what sourcing landscape we are talking about?
My observation is that definitely at some point of time, India need to have the infrastructure and the fabric has to be in India. Sooner the better, because most of the customers are suffering from over inventory situation as on date. Although maybe a year back it was a different situation, but now it's over inventory. So naturally they would be doing a co-location. That means fabric and garmenting from the same location, and we don't have that luxury of getting the fabric from another country into India and then manufacture and then ship it out. But there could be opportunities. I'm not seeing it as of now, but there could be, I feel. The talk of doing a fabric manufacturing, yes, if Paragon has already ventured into it, and I'm sure like there are a few other people in India who have ventured into it at this point of time, but still the number is still quite insignificant. For a large format manufacturer, definitely the scope of sourcing the fabric from India is still very limited. And followed by the fact is, you know, the bulk of the fabric is coming from China at this point of time. The fabric which has been developed, which has become more like a commodity, I'm talking about synthetic fabrics, it's coming out of China. So if you bring that particular production into India, then cost-wise will not be competitive. Because the kind of scale and the bulk that is already happening is difficult. And also the other fact is that the customer will pay a premium only for something which is innovative, which is new, which needs more R&D, I guess. So I think that particular scale, like where you start with manufacturing and then investing in the R&D and all. So maybe like I'm not an expert on this. I can we can ask Ravish or Anish to speak more about it. But then that I think fundamentally are those are the challenges that I can foresee at this point of time. In PLI, definitely the government policies are for promoting the MMF, but these are the challenges that has to be answered. Because even if you put a mill today, to get that fabric and get to that R&D where you can get the premium, because otherwise it's a business model just on the basis of the subsidies that the government is giving temporarily is very difficult to formulate. Yeah, that's my 2 bits.
Yeah, thank you, Pallab. And this question is to Vijay Mathurji and Tony Upalji, if you are there, sir. 2 questions. One is what Pallab pointed out, what Ravish also pointed out regarding Jugaad. So we believe in Jugaad. And now the world is moving where they are talking about specific things. When we are talking digitization, the idea is to really have specific data and then take decision. Then we are moving towards sustainability. We are moving towards product mix. So can India thought process itself that no, I have to be very specific. Let's not go for Jugaad. Can it happen? And then second, how do we expand our product mix? Tony ji, first on Jugaad or product mix, whatever you want to talk about, and then Vijay Mathurji will talk about.
Hi, Prashant. Jugaad has its own resources. It worked for India. So I would not call it an evil, but certainly we need to understand where the world is going and what needs to be done. We can't, there's a lot of saying India's decade, India's century. But what I would say is, like when you use the word in cricket, the opportunity, the ball wasn't good, but the next thing is you got to put it across the boundary. So I think India is facing the same situation. It could be a great decade, great century, but the bottom line is you've got to make it happen. And I think to start this, to make it happen, there, first of all, needs to be a better coordination and better communication within the industry itself. The blockades that we have, that this is the fabric industry, this is the yarn industry, this is the garment industry. Industries all over the world, in the Western world, where they are success or they control a major part of the industry, is the cooperation and coordination within the supply chain. And I think that is what India really needs to work on. Within the whole garment industry itself, I would ask a question: what is the communication within the industry to understand what's happening, to hear out certain exporters or all of them? Why do they feel they cannot be where they want to be? And within the government, like Pallab just said, that we believe in subsidies and waiting for subsidies to come so we can go. can we even go ahead without subsidies, and which are realistic subsidies that are needed to go there? So the coordination between the government and the industry itself really needs to be a very positive form of conversation, a very positive form of conversation, how to make things happen. That is absolutely not happening. New product line, certainly it is needed. We need to understand as a raw material, we are pretty good. Someone spoke about sweaters. We are a huge sweater manufacturing industry because there is a huge demand internally. But when it comes to a buyer, most of the retailers would not even know that India makes sweaters. So there is a failure somewhere. Why are people not investing, even at the private sector? It's a big question. Why are people not investing? If we were to look at the institutes that are related to garment industry or textile industry, there's a huge demand by students to go there. Why don't they come? Why have we not been able to bring really the heroes of those institutes into the industry? We do see a lot of people not getting into this industry. The question of why is the new generation so reluctant to come to the industry? These are some open questions that we really need to be very frank and open about it, and industry has to talk about it. I don't think the government can really talk about it. AAPC will have to play a major role, more than just policy making. They need to make a major role of taking industry to that level. Yes, certainly I agree. It is India's brigade. There is no doubt about it. Where is the manpower worldwide? Where is the raw material? With all these issues that are coming in logistics, it all makes sense. Why can a fabric be made in another country cheaper than being made in India? Reliance, I don't think there is a dearth of money. But when we really talk about, one of my questions to the person from Reliance was that the cheaper grade of polyester is available in India. Why can't we have open conversations on these issues? Why can't Reliance has no dearth of money? The industry, there are a lot of big exporters that may not have dearth of money, but why are they not investing to the level that could be required? We do know that these conversation takes place in closed doors. I think they need to just come out open to do that. Just to give you an example, Prashant, we have just started sweaters. We went on to making sweaters, and it has taken us time, but we realized the demand is huge. And the investment that could go into that is so huge. But why are people not doing it? People need to do that. So certainly I'll only put it to this level that yes, it's India's decade and India's century. But in the end of the day, you got to put it across the boundary. And I think that needs to be a major discussion. Seeing opportunities and making that happen are two things. Now we really need to talk about make it happen. And that's the only mindset that really needs to go within the process. Within OGTC, we've been able to see that competitors can sit on the same table and discuss issues. Why can't the industry sit on the same table and discuss issues and policies that could benefit the country? That's all, Prashant. Thank you.
Thank you. And I can tell you, Tony ji, that's why I always how big is the market when we are saying $871 billion of trade. And so there's a vast field available. So when we say competitors, we are not competitors. We have to learn from each other. And the field is, it's not that you are all fighting for the same pie. you can build your own pipe there. So I think some of the questions which I was asking have all been answered by Tony ji. So Vijay ji, Mathur ji, before coming to you, I have a question which I'll come to you after Anish regarding what will make Indian companies, after everybody on the panel is talking about it's India's decade, still the extent of investments which are supposed to happen are not happening. What's the reason? But before that, Anish, you have been dealing with a lot of buyers. Can you just pinpoint one issue, one specific issue, which where the buyers are looking from India and it's not happening? So, or it's not happening to that space. What's
So
one thing which
again,
buyers are looking towards from India?
see, India as a country, we as people probably are more, educated, and we're better than most of the people out of China, to be honest with you. Our communication skills, our overall presentation skills, even our product speaks for ourselves, whatever we do. But again, the limitation of the product, we cannot offer, we are limited to the product categories, what I mentioned earlier. We can really expand our businesses. Sweaters, yes, can be a huge possibility. There's a huge market. But primarily that business either out of China or out of Bangladesh. When we talk about bringing it to India, limited few players, again, it's on the whole, no one speaks bad about India today. I mean, most of the customers, they love working out of India. And communication skills, what we have and what we present to them across the table, we're better off. But again, limitation, product categories, that's the only limiting factor which I see as of now. We can take it to the next level very quickly.
So what Anish, you are saying that while everybody is looking towards us, it's the investors who have to be bit more bolder in terms of investments and working on their processes to make it more efficient.
Yeah, as Tony ji rightly said, it's a very thought over process. What we need to do, wise investments, the right way, involvement of government. It has to be wisely thought about.
Thank you, Mathur ji. Your bit in terms of while opportunity is so huge, still that much investment is not happening. What's your take?
I tell you, it has been a research topic. I have just submitted my PhD last month. So my topic of why investment is not coming to India. Now, to investment to happen in India, there are three players: government, manufacturer, and the buyer. Now, so far, government has alone taken all the decision on policy making. While, you go to 1991 when we had this, we say reform, it was opening of the doors, but it was all government decision. The manufacturers, the buyers were not taking, they were not the stakeholders. Second most important problem in India is that all incentives are post-exports. तुम पहले perform करो तब बाद में देंगे. Now the point is, this will not happen. If you really want investment to come, then it has to be pre-export. Now I tell you, I just give you an example. There are 22 products at 6 digits HS code who are not being exported for the last 21 years. And they are exported in a very small quantity. For example, sweater, cotton sweater, you remember, 3, 4, 5 category when even in the quota matters. Only Chennai used to do complete 100% quota utilization by cotton sweater by Chennai itself. But linking of the sweater was not done in India, that was done in Hong Kong, isn't it? So we were only exporting the panel. The linking portion was not coming to India. So point I'm trying to tell that if someone puts an investment on those products where India is not producing, he is charged to GST on day one, he is charged to income tax on day one, he has to pay electricity duty on day one, which are available only on post-export. So why a person will come if he sees that the moment he puts a plant for supplying something, like for example, 4 categories are imported in India, trimming and accessories. One is lining, interlining material, zips, lace, and sewing thread. these four materials constitute nearly 4,000 crore rupees of import every year. Now, they don't require huge capacities. For example, zip, we have already 2 factories. But when YKK provides zip for Tamil Nadu, they don't give it from Haryana. They supply it from Sri Lanka because of it is cheaper. The point is, can't we bring first the accessory manufacturers in India? In any case, we are importing. We know who is exporting. Can we make that person to come and sit in India, put it like someone said, that make them heroes? Say, what do you want? Say, you want land? Here's the land. I want income tax exemption. Okay, given. If you want GST exemption, given. You first set up your shop. You are in any case getting the employment, but the investment comes from there. So if we divide all the products, we have 243 apparel items, out of which we do only in 65. All those where we are not there, like for example, denim, sweaters, whatever has been talked about, all are the very, very small quantity. Allow the investor to come to India. What you want? Let us sign up an MOU. Okay, you will put so much of crores of investment, and here are the things given pre-export. You don't have even to export. You simply produce in India and give it to my colleagues who are exports. So this is my short point, Prashant ji. Government policy must come from post-export to pre-export. That is the message I think if this conference can give to the government, and let them think it over. Because everything can't, even your this PLI scheme on MMF, it is heavily on a post-export basis. If I get it, any benefit in 2026, who has the time to wait? So these are my some observations.
Thank you, Mathurji. And I think now already it's 10 o'clock and I will definitely get a tinkle from Colonel Kapoor to stop the session. Just one last, like all of us have summed up. Pallab, you have heard, and I see you both as a buyer and now a manufacturer and a global manufacturer. You have heard all of us speaking. Any take from your side as a view which we have missed in this session? I can continue for length because the panelists are so knowledgeable, but some last few view from your side before we close the panel.
No, very interesting session. Like I think very valid points from Tony, from Mr. Vijay, Ravish, and Anish. So I think it's excellent. And I think to sum it up, like when Vijayji was saying that ultimately it's coming to the finance, I am doing the decision making at this point of time. What should be the investment? But yes, we have to think of the return will come only after 5 or 6 years. That's the biggest hurdle that we have to come across. So that's I think is a good thought that Vijayji you brought onto the table. But of course, it's not in our hand. That's from the government agencies and how somebody will look into it. But I think again the other important part that came up is definitely the commitment from all the parts of the industry, and that seamless communication or the ecosystem that comes up, like what we are seeing in Bangladesh or in Vietnam. Of course, there it was in China, or it is still there in China, and also Indonesia has also to a certain extent is ahead of us on that. So that's something is an opportunity which I think Tonyji very clearly pointed out that we need to focus on that, creating that ecosystem. So I think this is something like my learning. Of course, I think it's a good discussion. Over to you, Prashant.
Thank you, Pallab. And in the end, what I can have a take in 1 or 2 lines is while we are talking about changing sourcing landscape, Anish talked about, Pallab talked about, Ravish talked about, as a buying community, buyers are gung-ho about buying from India. So I think it is time that as a manufacturer, we should expand our scale, our product mix, and focus while Jugaad has taken us here, but may not take where we want to go. So maybe we need to work on systems, processes, see a time frame of investment, see it as an industry which will give us fruits for long term. because when we work on processes, I think the next generation is also going to come. If we keep working the way we have been working, I'm sure next generation is not going to come in this industry. Keeping these things in mind, I think it's time that, as Tony ji pointed out, we have discussed, we know it's a time for us. So it's like put our head down and really focus on making it happen. Thanks all the panelists to really gave your real good insights. I hope it's interesting for all the members who have joined to listen to us. Now I hand over to OGTC once more. Thanks to all the panelists.
Thank you, Prashant.
Thank you, Prashant.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Mr. Agarwal, for wonderfully summarizing our panel discussion. We have a question from Mr. Ved, which I'm just reading out. And this question has been, taken forward for the panelists. He says that India-UK FTA is on anvil. Do they think that Indian exporters are ready to take the advantages if that happens? Over to you.
So over to maybe, I think, Pallab and Anish. Do you think Indian exporters are ready to take advantage of FTA? It's a $30 billion market. UK is a $30 billion market. India exports almost 1.7 billion. That's it.
No, we can. I mean, we are geared up for the categories where we master. Definitely will help for sure.
But can we take at least 15% share? Today we are at almost 5% share of the market. Can we take 5% to 15% in UK market?
Probably,
yeah,
yes.
Pallab. Yeah, Anish, yes, please.
Yeah, Pallab, continue.
No, again, like the limitation is the categories that we spoke about. Like we are strong in the tops, dresses, the female categories, and maybe like some shirts and all. We can also make.
And circular knits. I mean, that's something which you can really do. You know.
Yeah. But to expand that full category and take the full benefit, like where the ecosystems of Bangladesh or Vietnam had evolved ahead of us, so that might take more time.
So I think the answer to the question becomes definitely. We are not, as of now, prepared to take the market share. Definitely will expand. With FTA, it will have a huge benefit. But we need to expand our product basket to really take the share to 15-20%. Yeah.
Thank you so much for answering that question. It has been indeed a very, very enriching session with our knowledgeable panelists who has been with us throughout the session. Thank you, each one of you present here. Now, I would like to request Mr. Stoney to kindly give his concluding remarks, if any, for the pre-lunch session. Over to you, Tony, sir.
I thank all of you for coming here. Certainly, it's been very enlightening. I think one of the big things that is going around in my mind is that how do we take these discussions and what we've learned, what possibilities are there in India to pan-India, not only limited to people that are connected to this situation. Certainly, I would say, and what I even hear from people, the possibilities are huge, and certainly it is India's century. We should take advantage of that. The industry needs to get together, put their heads together. How do we get there? Even to the question of someone asked, is India prepared for the FTA? The answer is both yes and no. Why are certain categories not made in India? I think this should be a subject that the industry should take over. And what needs to be done to get into these categories. That itself will be a huge success for India to go forward. Thank you very much. God bless you all.
Thank you so much, Mr. Opal, for making the concluding remarks. I also thank all the delegates for being there with us since morning. With this, we conclude our pre-lunch session for the day. We shall resume our conference sharp at 2:30 p.m. Post-lunch, we have 3 parallel workshops. These workshops will be in the area of production, merchandising, and human relations. I would like to request all the delegates to please join us 10 minutes prior to the workshop for its fluent conduct. Thank you, everyone. Have a very good day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.